Hey guys, Marco the dog trainer here. Today we're going to be doing a quick video on the best crates for Rottweilers. Now, when it comes to picking out a crate for our Rottweiler, we have to think about a couple different variables. What is the breeding like? The bloodline? Do we know how big mom and dad were? Are we getting a male or a female? Because all of these different things are going to give us a pretty good idea of how big our Rottie is expected to get. So the top recommendation that I'm going to have for Rottweilers are going to be these PetMate Sky Kennels, these plastic ones. And these are the two sizes that should cover our needs for the majority of Rottweilers out there. So I'm going to make sure that I've got the links posted in the video description for these two models. And if you check them out, they should have some good requirements for like weight and measurements and things like that to pick an appropriate size. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. Now, I did also set up the ICrate by Midwest Homes for Pets. That's the wire one that I've got here. Now, even though 99% of the time I am going to be recommending these plastic crates, there is kind of a time and a place for the wire crate. They can be really helpful for traveling because they fold up into a really small space, and some people prefer them because they're a little less expensive. So I do have a video that goes into a little bit more depth on the pros and cons of a wire crate versus plastic, but those are just some of the quick advantages to a wire crate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put lower down in the video description, I'm going to put kind of alternative recommendations, which are going to be the equivalent sizes that ICrate offers to the two PetMate models that I'm talking about. So that way, if you're just more of a wire crate kind of person, or if that just happens to fit your needs better, I'll make sure that I've got you covered there too. Now, but for the sake of this video, we're really going to be focusing on these two models because they're really what I would be getting if it were me. Now, we've got the PetMate Sky Kennel 48-inch, which means that it is 48 inches from front to back. Okay, and that's an important dimension to understand because that is going to tell us, based on how long our dog is, can they fit in there comfortably without bending their arms or contorting themselves to fit. Okay, now this particular model is going to be for dogs between maybe 90 to 125 pounds. Okay, now if we go down one size, we've got the 40-inch model that is more for a Rottweiler between 70 to 90 pounds. Okay, so like I said, these two models should cover the vast majority of Rottweilers out there. And there is a little bit of personal preference on which one you'd like to go with. Again, I'm going to be thinking about my dog's size as far as height and length in comparison to the measurements. And then I'm also going to be thinking about my dog's weight or expected weight and how that matches the requirements of these two different models. And now, me personally, when it comes to picking out a crate for our dogs, as long as we're not talking about a puppy, I actually like to go one or two sizes up for my dogs just because they're in the crate all day while I'm gone and I want them to be comfortable in there. So a lot of times I opt for the bigger crate when we're talking about big dogs because I would just rather than have that extra room as opposed to being a little bit cramped. So why don't we take a closer look at these two models in particular so I can walk you through everything you need to know. Okay, so both of these models are pretty much exactly the same outside of the size, but we should talk about some slight differences that may push you more towards one or the other. Okay, so both of these models have got this kind of upgraded lock. I refer to it as a dual lock. I don't really know what it's called, but we have to press this lock in order to unlock this one. Okay, and what that does is it makes it a lot more difficult for a dog to break it or open it from the inside. Okay, now the other thing that it does is that this type of lock is actually going to send like a securing pole into 4 different locations, where a lot of the other plastic crates that I've seen and even smaller models of the Sky Kennels, they only secure in 2 locations, making it way easier to break out of. Okay. Now, if we're talking about just a regular old dog that isn't trying to break out or anything like that, this will probably work fine. Okay. Now, when it comes to like true separation anxiety or something like that, this model is going to be better than a lot of the other plastic crates that I've seen, and it's going to be better than the smaller models of the Sky Kennel. But I'm not going to say it's escape proof. I've definitely seen dogs with separation anxiety break out of this one too. So anytime that I'm nervous about a dog breaking out of a crate or they've got a little bit of a history of breaking out of crates, I'm typically going to recommend the 48-inch model, where even though it's not marketed as escape proof, I've never seen a dog break out of it. And I've worked with a lot of separation anxiety situations. So I think it's a combination of that really secure door and lock like this one, and it also has some of the thickest plastic I've ever seen on a crate. So I think that's why I've never seen a dog successfully break out of it. Now, again, not necessarily marketed as escape proof, but if you're looking at like true escape proof crates, they are easily in the $1,000 range. So if you're looking for one last like plastic type of option before you start dishing out the big bucks, this is probably going to be your best bet. So even if our dog's a little bit small, if they've got a history of breaking out of crates, I'd probably just upgrade to the big one. Okay, now why don't we take apart one of these crates so I can kind of show you what it looks like to put these things back together, and then we'll probably wrap up from there. Both of these crates are basically three main pieces. We've got a door, the top piece, and the bottom piece, and we basically just bolt them together. Okay. Now, a lot of times when I'm storing these crates or traveling with them, I just put the top piece in the bottom and the door in there because it just takes up less space. And if I'm bringing a few of these crates, I just kind of stack them inside of each other. But now when it comes to putting them together, it is really not difficult. We're just going to put the top piece on the bottom, and we just have to make sure that all the holes are lined up properly. Okay, and then the door, we can actually decide which way we want the door to open, which is actually really, really nice depending on what your house is set up like. Okay, but we just have to make that choice before we start putting everything together. So we're just going to do it this way. And on a side note, while we're talking about the door, I should talk about one of my favorite things about these crates is that we can buy replacement doors or these metal side vents. We can buy replacements for them. So that way, let's say 7, 8, 9 years down the road, the plastic looks totally fine, but our metal's getting a little rusty from when we're cleaning it and stuff like that. We can actually just buy a replacement, like replacement door, replacement vent. And that can be a really inexpensive way to add to the lifespan of these crates, because obviously that's a lot cheaper than buying multiple new crates just because the door is a little rusty. But that was just a side note that I figured I'd bring up. Now, as far as putting this together with the bolts, really, really easy. Okay, so you don't need a wrench or anything like that. We just kind of go around the edge here, and we're just going to screw these on. Now, when it comes to just a regular dog, I'm usually only going to put maybe 5 or 6 in around the perimeter here. But we can put up to 11 bolts to hold the crate together. Okay, so if I were working with the dog that I was really afraid of them escaping the crate, then I'm probably going to put all 11 in. Now, as far as the 48-inch model goes, we can actually put 17 bolts around the perimeter to hold it together. So, again, I only usually use 4 or 5 for my dogs because they're not trying to get out of there. But when I was working with dogs that were actively trying to get out, I put all 17 in. Okay, now outside of that, I think that's pretty much everything you guys need to know about these PetMate Sky Kennels. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.